Let us talk about Invictus. How did this event go? This is CIG's second biggest event of the year, right behind IAE. May is their second biggest month of funding. It always is. It is also a big time for visibility for Star Citizen. So there are a few different ways to judge how this event has gone. And I'll go ahead and say right now, I can't make the judgment on my own. In fact, even this first page we're starting at, this comes from Greg Red, Reddit user. He has tracked the funding across the various days of Invictus, so we'll be looking at that. We'll also be checking out funding for the year overall. And I would also like to check out the most reliable and probably most powerful statistic you can find to track metrics, Twitch numbers. And we're going to look at all these in comparison to previous years and kind of how things went. I don't have previous years Invictus week sales. Maybe we do. Let's see. 29.54 funding. Is there any posts? Yeah. Is this also Greg Red? Man! Greg, that is reliable. Wow. Good on you for that. Make sure to, I'll drop the link to this in chat right now, actually. Go give him a like. Give him a little comment. Give them some engagement. That is great stuff. So we've got several statistics to look through here. Like I said, they had reasons to make good sales here. They released the Asgard, which is a pretty, people want that ship. I think the Starlancer TAC was also a very good opportunity for sales. And then the Idris, which isn't on here, was also, I think, probably going to be a big vehicle for profits. Then we also have a couple other things to talk about, like the flight blades and the weapons packs. And honestly, I think that we don't know if that's impacted them positively or negatively. But it's definitely going to be a good year, as we'll see. So daily sales total, this is for day 11, which was yesterday, I believe, was 2.5 million. Daily average over 11 days so far has been about 2 million. Median sales after 11 days is 1.8 million. Total new accounts created 62,000. This is compared to the total last year after 11 days was 17 million. So let's see. Okay, this is day 13. Let me look up 2954 day 11. Thank you, Greg. Also, thank you for titling these so they're so easy to find. That's incredibly helpful. So the same day last year, we were looking at the release of we were looking at deals rather, the Starfarer Gemini, Crusader A1, Aegis Hammerhead, Drake Cutlass Blue. To be honest, what were the ships? The ships they released at the time last year were like the Ursa Medical, the Aegis Firebird, the MPUV Tractor, the Pulses. I mean, guys, look at the choices. Look at the Aegis Firebird, the MPUV Tractor, the Medivac, and the Pulse. Okay, that's a selection. But comparing that to, hell, I don't even know, they're not even on here. They don't even show the ones that we just got. The Starlancer TAC, the Aegis Idris, the Anvil Asgard, and I think that the Nursa probably would outsell the MTC, but still, those first three choices are way better than what they had going on. Oh, and the Mirai Guardian MX was also, I think, more interesting than what they had going on. Can already see that they just have more interesting sales going on this year. The 11-day total, the daily average after 11 days was 1.9 million. Last year, the daily average after 11 days, it looks like he didn't cover that. Okay, he tracked the funds raised that day, which was 1.43, as opposed to the funds raised during this time was 2.5. Good Lord. Like a 70% increase. Total new accounts so far during Invictus Week last year as of day 11 was 45,632. As of this year, it is 62,887. So they've picked their numbers back up in terms of new accounts being made, at least during Invictus. And you can say all kinds of excuses that would be for, but it's really a whole bunch of different variables, I'm sure. Let's see, day 11 new accounts. I don't have that here. Median sales, daily average sales, daily sales. Not much of the same statistics here, but we can see that the overall funded so far at this point was 20,415,000. Currently, this year it is 21,673,000. So they are ahead of last year Invictus Week officially. And that is even with all the Invictus problems they've had, even with the negative press that they've had, because let's be honest, negative press doesn't mean less sales. It just means more conversation. And more conversation generally can lead to more people with eyes on. I'm not going to say that directly translates to more sales or anything like that, but there are definitely more people who know about Star Citizen now than they did 2 weeks ago. And a lot of that is because of the Flight Blades stuff that happened that got a lot of coverage outside of CIG. It just would be great if the kind of thing that gets covered by a whole bunch of random creators outside of Star Citizen was a good thing. Like, wouldn't it have been cool if instead of all of these people making videos about Flight Blades, they were making videos about a bunch of players launching fighter pilots off of capital ships into battle against each other because some cool new event was released? And anyways, continuing on, we can see that day one of the Invictus sales was huge with $4.5 million in sales. Trickled down after that. I'm guessing this was like the first wave of the Idris or something. Also just when people were very excited with their money. So a lot of money on day one. And then we dropped off quite a bit for most of the event. But then Anvil Day, day 9, huge day. And I'm guessing that is because of the Asgard. So there's something to be said about the ship choices this year that really helped them get ahead of what happened last year. Honestly, with this big a day from Anvil, it's surprising they're not further ahead of last year. Looks like it was a more gradual increase last year. This is a little bumpy. And the stats as of last year also looks like they were lower in the first few days and then got higher in the latter few days. Lowest. Did we get a graph like this for today? Okay, it's kind of like that. It's a little bit different. Easier to speak negative when outside looking in for views. That is true. It definitely, like, that's kind of the bummer is if CIG had a win with Invictus and they did have a great release that was like the opposite, the equivalent positive of the flight Blades stuff, it wouldn't have gotten covered like it did. That's really the freaking annoying part of it all. So looking at this compared to last year, day one was way bigger. Day one actually covered day 1, 2, and 3 of last year. And then day 5 was big last year, but they were still well ahead. Yeah, no, it never caught up after day 1. Just in general, it looks like they made more on day 2. They made more on day 3. They made more on day 4. Less on day 5, but just barely. They made a little bit less on day 6. Quite a bit less on day 7. Less on day 8. Made quite a bit more on day 9. Not that much more, but enough to... Man, day 9 is always good, huh? Anvil Day just always brings in money for them, it seems. Day 10, day 11, doing much better day 11. So yeah, they're well and ahead of last year's Invictus launch week. In terms of money, it seems like they did okay, but we can talk a little bit more about some of the other factors too. Continuing on with this, one of the big things that has been noticeable over this last year has been like money's doing great. I mean, we looked at this earlier. This is insane. Look at how much freaking money they've made this year. Oh my God. And this is a combination, I think, of the amount of ships they're releasing. Because it's not just concepts. They used to release concepts all the time. Somebody actually made a post in the subreddit saying, did anybody just realize that we didn't get any new concepts released at Invictus? Which is notable. CIG's been moving away from doing mostly concepts for a while now. And you could see that through the backlog. They do a lot of straight to flyables. I think mainly because they're able to get ships into the game that work. And then they're just waiting on the backlog to really work on it. But the G12, I want to know more about that. But anyways, they're making a ton of money. It's not like their money has slowed down from last year. If anything, it has sped up because they're doing constant releases and they're including in ships. And that's really what gets people's attention. It's what gets you back into the game. What gets you spending money. A good game to play. Good job. Keep that up. So I think we'll definitely be positive at the end of this year. But the thing that they were really struggling with recently was the player numbers. And you can see that since 2022, which had an amazing month of May. Look at this. This is crazy. How many people did they add? 176,000 new accounts in 1 month. May 2022. It was a wild time, and I think it was the first year that like a whole bunch of streamers and YouTubers tried this for the first time, like Jack Frags. I know Level Cap got a lot more into it around that time, and like other people like Summit 1G and pretty big names online were getting into it. So they had a great year 2022. I think that was standout. I think 23 makes a little bit more sense as like a normal year for them, but even then they had a pretty significant decrease last year. And a lot of that, in my opinion, was just the delays of everything leading up to server meshing. It's just not good. It knocked the game off of its momentum, and it also led to basically just the game not feeling great. Like a lot of people didn't want to join the game because the players also weren't interested in it. So I think that slowed them down a lot. Also, of course, master modes. But it did definitely take its toll. And I don't even think that left this year. I mean, we started out this year and things were not looking great. 4.0 came out, but there were a lot of people had problems. A lot of people were still waiting for the game to pick back up and get better again. There's a lot higher expectations. So the excitement's never really rebounded from just how much of a pause the server meshing stuff and Squadron put on the momentum of this system, or this project. I think they've picked it up a little bit over the last couple of months. After 4.1, things started to get more stable, so we can see it starting to pick up here. They also were able to then run free fly events, which helps get more accounts made, but I still do think that they've got to get their persistence under control, and people just need to be able to feel comfortable playing this as a regular game before they see these numbers consistently stay high without them doing free flies and stuff to bolster them. We saw back here that they did make more accounts on Invictus this year, 62,000 so far, whereas back in the previous year, they had only made 45,000 at that point. So things like Invictus and these more concentrated events and things are definitely pulling in higher numbers than they have before because the game naturally looks better. It's just that like people are only looking if these things are happening. During the downtime of March and February, we're all excited because we're still getting monthly updates, but those updates aren't big enough to get out to the actual world and bring in new people. So I think they're still missing that draw. And they're still maintaining all of the things that push people away still when you first join. The lack of inventory, of tutorials, of knowing what the heck's going on. Obviously, the storefront hits you. The controversy. There's a lot of things that can give somebody pause from jumping in. And I think they're still working on getting the things that make you say, well, who cares? This looks sick. I'm not talking for us, by the way. We're already here. That's why we watch space stuff nonstop for no reason. So that's a little look at how Invictus has gone so far. Again, I don't really know what happened with the Idris, but I know the Idris probably had an effect on these sales, and I think on people's feelings about these sales with the just bringing in a ship like that. And I understand limiting it, but then they've gone and like they've talked about limiting it so that there's not too many ships in the verse, and then they offer more sales days because people missed out on it. And it feels kind of like moving homeless people out of the way instead of giving them a home. It's like, we don't want to deal with the problem we're having, so we're just going to kind of like do more of the same thing. Like there's clearly a problem with bots and people gaming the system to buy these ships and then resell them for ridiculous prices on other shops. I think I saw somebody posted posted that the Idrises were selling the Idri, the Elbas. They were selling for like $2,500, $2,600 freaking dollars. I'm never going to be able to find it now. It was on here somewhere. just ridiculous prices of these Idris on other pages, on third-party pages, which you guys go off. You do what you do. CIG is allowing you to do it. Sell your stuff, advertise about it. It's quite something to do, but they're free to do it. And so they're getting sold for ridiculous prices. Like, people are taking advantage of this system. And I think CIG is going to need to do something to ring that in. And then there were the flight blades. I'd like to talk about those in a separate video. So we're gonna finish this off here with a little look on how Invictus Week did this year. It's only day 11. There's still 2 more days for them to go, and they're currently at 21 million. So let me just confirm that last year, just to make sure. So last year they made a total of $23,919,000. So in order to beat that, they'll just need to make another $2.5 million. They just got to make another $2.5 million by, I think by Wednesday. Or no, we're in day 12. So day 12 and 13. So today and tomorrow, they'd have to make $2.5 million. 1.7. Wait, how much was it? 23. Yeah, they got to make 2.2,300,000. So, and we can actually see how much they've made today already. They already passed last year? All right, so 25th. They don't have today's stats on there. Okay. It says about 1.9 million on the yesterday. So that must have been day 10 then? I don't even know. That doesn't really match up. Either way, they've got about 2 million to go, and they'll pass next year. I think they're going to pass next year. I don't think it's going to be a problem for them. Hopefully they met the goals that they wanted. And that's what we know of Invictus Week so far.